Welcome back. In just a couple of weeks, Republicans and Democrats will be picking their candidates for governor. On the Republican side, it's either Adam Putnam or Congressman Ron DeSantis, but on the Democratic side, it's a crowded field that recently got even more crowded. 5 candidates, including our next guest, Orlando businessman Chris King. Chris, how is it going on the campaign trail?
It's going great, and it's great to be back in Sarasota. I'm all across the state of Florida. We've got about 6 weeks left to the primary, and we're trying to finish this well.
Chris, every time I read a story about the Democratic side of this campaign, it's very positive in terms of what you're bringing to this race. In fact, the Orlando Sentinel wrote today, King has pushed the field closer to solid progressive platforms. He is smart, quick, and breaks the mold of your typical politician and Democrat, talking proudly about his faith as a motive for helping the meek, and says he refuses to let conservatives co-opt Christianity in ugly ways. He is also fearless and largely baggage-free. Very complimentary, but how do you explain that the polls consistently show you lagging in terms of the top-tier candidates?
Sure. Well, you know, since the very beginning of this race, I knew that I was the newcomer. I was the underdog. I had not run for office before. I have a background in entrepreneurship, but I was running as the transformative candidate. And a year into this, what most voters who have really been following this see is that I have been the candidate with the fresh ideas, the new ways of doing governance, and who said we got to do it differently if the Democrats are going to win and be transformative in 18. And what I have to do now, what we've consistently seen, is when people know me, when they get to know me, our polls are picking up. And we're going to have a winner who gets probably between 20 and 30% of the Democratic primary vote on August 28th. And my numbers have been taken off last month. We saw an independent poll that had me at 15%. And so I've got 6 weeks to make up another 10 points. Currently, undecideds are leading in my race, and I'm trying to convince them to join me.
You said as voters get to know you, that takes resources. And I know the money is coming in there, but you're going up against a billionaire and a multi-millionaire who are basically flooding the airways here and at every major market in Florida. How do you compete with that?
Well, as that article you shared said, you know, I've been fearless. I'm going up against some tough candidates with lots of resources, but we have some resources too. And we have been up on television in many markets across the state. We're currently up in about 2/3 of the state. But the thing that is going to make the difference for me and my candidacy is doing something different, presenting a different vision. I've been the leader on a lot of big issues in the state of Florida, from affordable housing, where we have a crisis here in Sarasota and Sarasota County, and I'm trying to address it. Free community college and trade school, which is a big new idea to address our low-wage economy, and on a number of other things. And I think that's what makes me unique.
So what would you say is the big thing that distinguishes you against, let's say, Jeff Green and Gwen Graham, who are at the top of the polls right now?
Well, you know, we had a debate just recently, and one of the things that I think distinguished myself in that debate is the fact that I have been the first voice in a generation that said, if you care about Florida's environment, if you're frustrated by these toxic discharges on the east and west coast of the state of Florida, and you don't have the political courage as a candidate running for governor to stand up to the industry, Big Sugar, that has really presented such obstacles to environmental progress in Florida, then you're not able to be the next governor of Florida. And so I was the first candidate in a generation that said, I'm not going to take their money. I'm not going to be beholden when it comes to the environment. And it's been a real leading position for me. And, you know, for instance, with Congresswoman Graham, you know, she took thousands and thousands of dollars from the sugar industry. And I've argued that's just a policy difference we both have, because that has been an industry that has had a vice grip on policy and politics in Florida, and I want to change that.
What will it take for a Democrat to win the governor's mansion this fall? Because, you know, all 5 of you do talk about environmental issues and, you know, sustainability, education. But the rap on the Democratic Party is that it has lost the support of middle-class families.
Sure.
Who, they may agree with you on that, but they have a perception that Democrats are just going to spend more money, and at a time when they have a really hard time making ends meet.
Well, I've argued, and I think that's an excellent point, we've lost 21 of 25 statewide elections since 2000, and we've lost many of those elections for that very reason, that Democrats have stopped talking about pocketbook issues, that we've lost the economic debate to the Republican Party. And what I've said from the beginning is that the Democratic vision for growing the economy is about doing well by doing good, that we don't just have to grow an economy that's not good for all of our people. We can do both. And so I've talked about some of the big issues that I think will do well by Florida's economy. You know, I've said that if you're wealthy and well-connected in Florida, this is a great place to live. If you're not, it's a struggle. And so, for instance, we have an affordable housing crisis. And I have said if elected, I will stop the raids on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in Tallahassee, about $2 billion of raids, and I will invest nearly $1 billion in private and public monies into fixing this crisis. We have a low-wage economy. 1 out of every 2 jobs pays less than $15 an hour. And I have said we need a big idea in Florida to address that. My big idea has been free community college and trade school, which has been done in Republican and Democratic states. Mine is modeled after the state of Tennessee, a red state, but has been demonstrated to raise wages by $10,500 more if someone gets an AA degree.
I'm curious how you would react to some of the commercials that the Republicans are running right now. Adam Putnam often talks about the liberal elites. So there's Congressman DeSantis. They're making liberals like yourself almost as a slur to call yourself that. What would you say right now if you were talking to Adam Putnam?
Well, it's an extraordinarily effective argument that they have made against Democrats for 20 years in Florida. They have called us tax and spend liberals. They have said we don't understand the power of faith, that we don't appreciate family values. And you know what I will say if I'm running against Adam Putnam, for instance, in the general election, is I will say not this Democrat. This Democrat married his high school sweetheart. I have 3 small children, been married 16 years. This Democrat knows how to grow business and create jobs. I started an entrepreneurial business from scratch, didn't have any money to put into it, and had to work hard for years. Today it serves thousands and thousands of people all across the United States, providing affordable housing. You know, I've been someone since I was a little boy that's been a person of faith, and have a vision for faith in politics that doesn't exclude people or discriminate against people, but brings people together for the benefit of all of us. And I look super forward, if I'm the candidate in the general, to taking that argument to the Republicans.
You have a little bit over a month before the primary. Obviously, as we mentioned, that you're running against a couple of billionaires and multi-millionaires. What is the strategy to get from where you are today to actually being able to win this primary?
The strategy is to be everywhere and do everything. For instance, I'm on day 2 of a 12-day tour across Florida called Keeping the Promise, where I am putting forward my big ideas on healthcare. And I'm talking about the fact that today in Florida, and this is something you wouldn't hear from an Adam Putnam or Ron DeSantis, but we have 2.5 million people who don't have access to a doctor who knows their name. I think that's wrong. I think that's tragic. That's not who we should be as a state. And so I've put forward a plan that would not only work to pass Medicaid expansion, but that would strengthen the marketplace to make health care more affordable and accessible for families and small business owners all across the state of Florida.
Chris King, good luck to you in the final weeks of this primary campaign.
Thank you very much.